Ubisoft is in a lot of trouble. Their stock has dropped not 20, not 50, but almost 90% since their record high in 2018. Their quadruple A game in Skull and Bones was a failure. Their new shooter X Defiant is already shutting down in June later this year. It now all comes down to Assassin's Creed Shadows to save this entire company. It doesn't help then that Assassin's Creed Shadows has been rife with controversy ever since its announcement. There's honestly too many to cover, but let's go over a couple of the main ones. Most notable is the decision to make Yasuke, a black man that served under Oda Nobunaga, to be one of the main playable characters as a samurai. For a game centered on historic Japan, many people are upset that the game revolves around playing as the black guy slaughtering hundreds of Japanese people. It feels especially disrespectful because it is dubious whether Yasuke was even a samurai or not in the first place. I searched through dozens of Japanese pages, but it seems like there's nothing conclusive. Records suggest that he possibly served a bodyguard-esque role for some time, but there's no confirmation of his samurai status. Like, his Japanese Wikipedia page doesn't even mention samurai once, except in the citations. Even assuming that he was a samurai, Assassin's Creed's depiction of Yasuke feels out of line. He's freaking massive, bulldozes down doors, wears armor that's even grander than his Lord Nobunaga's, and obliterates enemies in combat. I want to give the benefit of the doubt to the devs, but it's hard to look at this and not think that there was some kind of weird diversity motivation at work. I'm not a fan of the approach they're going with here, and if they really wanted to make a game about Yasuke, I think a more down-to-earth, level depiction would work way better. But hey, everyone has their own opinion on this matter. There's also a more recent discussion that even reached the Japanese assembly. Apparently in the game you are able to destroy shrine offerings without penalty, which Japanese lawmakers are concerned would encourage real-life degenerate behavior. Normally, I'd go back to the fact that there's no link between video games and violent behavior, just as violent movies don't inspire violence either, but I do understand Japan's concern. Lately, there's a rise of nuisance streamers abusing Japan's politeness. Actions like throwing snowballs at staff, heckling women at bars, among other immature garbage has soured the reputation of foreigners. Obviously, more than 99% of players understand the boundaries between fiction and reality, but it really only takes one or two bad apples to sour the entire image for all foreigners in Japan. With the odds stacked against it, is Assassin's Creed Shadows good enough to overcome the controversies and save Ubisoft? I don't think so. In my opinion, this game is not great. It's not the worst thing ever, but galaxies away from the standout success Ubisoft needs to save its stock price. We will get to the issues, but let's start with the good first. The environments look beautiful. They've used really nice colors to recreate 1600s Japan. The weather effects in particular are fantastic. The wind physics here might be the best I've ever seen. Next, the Japanese voice acting is quite solid. Naoe's performance is easily the best of the bunch, but on the whole, the voices do a solid job at delivering old-time Japanese. On the gameplay side of things, AC Shadows doesn't stray too far from the series formula. You'll still be climbing tall places, jumping into haystacks, sneaking around, and fighting. I enjoyed Naoe's mix of stealth and aggressive options. The attack animations felt nice, ground movement on the most part is slick, and assassinations are satisfying. Honestly, if you enjoyed Assassin's Creed up until this point, you'll probably like this one too, but man, this game has problems. On a baseline mechanical level, the parkour and climbing movement don't feel great. The surface and walls you can interact with are all contextual and feels like they're on a grid, which makes the movement feel sticky. It feels the same as it has been since Assassin's Creed 2 back in 2009. Going from a game with dynamic climbing mechanics like Breath of the Wild to Shadows feels like a jump back in time, and not in a good way. With its beautiful environments, the game is dying for a jump button to let you truly run free, but instead, you're often getting stuck on trees and fighting with the geometry. Part of the clunkiness also has to do with the controls. For God knows what reason, the devs decided to map lock on to the right stick click and photo mode onto holding down the right stick click. So many times when I was trying to just lock onto an enemy, I'd pull photo mode instead, which is frustrating and led to some unfair deaths. Similarly, they assigned roll and descending a ledge to the same button as well. If you're fighting near ledges and want to dodge, you'll often end up climbing down the ledge instead. It feels real awful when this happens. As for the combat, while swinging your weapon does feel good, the actual combat system feels quite dumbed down. Mashing R1 beats a lot of enemies in 1-on-1 fights. The dodge window is way too generous to the point where it's like the best defensive option always. Dodge, 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 attack, attack, attack. You can throw in a special attack every now and then. That's really about it. It doesn't help that the enemies are also pretty basic. You got your range dudes, your katana dudes, the spear dudes, and the big club dudes. The only other variance comes in extra HP and damage as they increase in level. On paper, there's a good game to be made out of the different systems they put here, but in practice, it's balanced so poorly with dumb AI enemies, you'll just need to dodge and mash R1 until the cows come home. I found the bosses to be especially disappointing. Their movesets are very forgettable, and you basically fight them like any other enemy. Yasuke, as I mentioned earlier, adds to the problem in how he trivializes combat even more. His basic attack string even breaks guards. He does way more damage than Naoe, and has twice the amount of healing. It doesn't even feel like the game was built around him at all. He crushes enemies. But on the flip side, he can barely navigate the vertical environments with his limited movement options. I get that they want to have two contrasting playstyles here, but I just had a way better time playing as Naoe because it felt way more balanced. Weaving in and out of combat and actually using the nuances in the environment was way more enjoyable than bulldozing them head on. The other big disappointment I had with the dual protagonist setup is how you switch between the characters. Most criminally, it takes so damn long. I gotta open my menu, navigate to the item page, hold down a button, and wait for a load screen. Holding down X. Still waiting. And we're in. It's also immersion breaking how you interchange between them on the spot, whenever and wherever. I'd much rather prefer if they had separate campaigns, or if they had their own dedicated sections like they did at the beginning of the game. Finally, there's just too much fluff here. So many cutscenes that tell so little. Cutscene into trailing segment into cutscene can feel so pointless. So much game time is just traveling from one part of the map to the next. So much grind and level gating that feel artificial and gamey. I get that there are fans who absolutely love this stuff, but man, for me it wears out so fast nowadays. When it comes down to it, I found that there wasn't really a reason to keep playing. The loot system is alright, but it really took the wind out of my sails when I saw the real money store filled with pay-to-win items. I get it's not a PvP game, but it sucks to know that the devs were incentivized to design the game to be extra grindy to just push people to the store. This stuff really needs to get out of games, especially those with already a AAA price tag. The story also didn't do enough to keep me invested. Naoe is easily the most interesting character here, but all of the fluff and forced side quests kept the interesting story beats so far apart from one another, it was easy to stop caring. From the Yasuke controversy to the Shrine controversy to Shadows just being kind of a mid-game, it's not looking too good for Ubisoft. They recently tweeted that they reached 2 million players, but there's no confirmation whether those are 2 million sales or if they even turned a profit yet. The stock price certainly isn't happy. Simply looking at it as a game, Assassin's Creed Shadows is definitely not worth its full AAA price tag when there are so many other great games that outdo it. Sekiro, Ghost of Tsushima, Cyberpunk, and many more. Maybe worth checking out on a big sale, but Ubisoft is going to need to dig way deeper if it's not too late already.